What's up, Recovery Elevator? Paul Churchill here with my trusty sidekick, Ben. At this moment, I've been sober for over 14 months. This guy, sober for over 2 years. He's only 2 years and some bit old, but you get the point, still pretty cool. You guys are in luck today. I am here with DIY Pete. This gentleman to my left, he's got a DIY, do-it-yourself YouTube channel with videos of how to build something awesome like this simple bookshelf that's been viewed over 1 million, wait, check that, 2 million times. Now, something that I struggled with in recovery and also with the process of getting sober was how to get my mind, this thinking issue in my head, off of alcohol, off of my disease. And healthy projects like building a bookshelf like this seem daunting, but when you really get to it, and while we were making it, there were times when I was sanding it, it was meditative. And before I even knew it, I hadn't thought about alcohol or my recovery or how the hell am I gonna get sober for a little bit of time. And it was that temporary reprieve from those symptoms, those feelings that make projects like this very valuable to my recovery. So Pete, thanks for letting me collaborate with you and showing myself and my audience how to build something awesome and, believe it or not, simple like this. So Pete, let's go ahead and get started.
All right, let's get to it.
We started by sketching the design for the bookshelf and decided on a height and width to best fit the room. Then we gathered up tools and supplies.
For the main tools and supplies, you'll want to pick up or borrow a saw of some sort.
A drill and a sander.
And for supplies, you'll need some wood screws.
And glue.
Take your time finding straight boards and then cut them down to size using a saw. We used a miter saw, but you could use a circular or a hand saw if that's what you already have. Cut the 2 long boards for the sides of the bookshelf. Next, cut 6 boards that are all the same length for the shelves. Next, sand the boards to smooth them out and to remove rough edges. Use an orbital sander or a hand sander with some 220 grit paper for the process. Then begin assembling the outside frame. Attach the top board flush within the ends of the 2 side boards according to the plans at DIYpete.com/bookshelf. Apply a little glue to the ends and then get ready to attach the board. Pre-drill with a small bit and then use 3-inch wood screws to connect the boards. We used 3 screws for each connection.
Now, a common theme in recovery is it's not perfect. It's progress, not perfection. And just like my new woodworking project to get my mind off the booze, it's also not perfect. If there's a 1/8 inch gap here and it's flush here, but I'm okay with that because it's not perfect and that's all right.
We measured up 3 inches from the bottom and marked for the placement of the lower shelf. Once in place and even with your measurements, go ahead and glue, pre-drill, and screw in the board from each side.
About 14 months ago, this might as well have been my coffin, but today I'm building a bookshelf. How sweet is that? Life is awesome.
Continue measuring up from the bottom of the vertical boards on each side to determine the placement for each shelf. You can double check the measurements as shelves are added to make sure the spacing is correct. The shelves for this project are about 13 inches between each other and spaced evenly. The process is the same for attaching each board, so simply line each board up to your measurements, double check that the spacing is correct and the shelves look level, and then glue and screw the board in place. Once all the boards are attached, do a quick sanding of the entire project and then prepare for the finishing process. Lay down an old tarp or newspapers to cover the work surface, and if you want to fill in the screw holes with wood putty, now is a good time. Then apply the wood stain using a rag and have a brush to get the hard-to-reach places and inside the screw holes if you didn't use wood putty. Apply 1 or 2 coats until it has the desired look you're going for, and we used espresso stain from Minwax. Then let the stain dry and apply 2 thin coats of polyurethane with a brush. This will give the bookshelves a finished look and a durable surface. Once dry, lightly sand if needed, then let the bookshelf air out for a while before bringing it inside. And that's all there is to it. You can build this, and by taking one step at a time, you can accomplish anything, whether it's a DIY project, recovering from alcoholism, or simply reaching the goals you set.
So as you learned in the video, this is how you build something like this. But there's a lot of metaphors in recovery that are very applicable to this. Number one, this is the final product. When I first would look at this, I'd say, there's no way in hell I can build this. But break it down step by step, it's pretty easy to build. And that's like that person that has multiple years of sobriety. You're like, there's no way that I can ever achieve something like that. How do I do it? But just as Pete referenced during the video, and I don't know if it's caught on video or whatnot, but he said it's literally one screw at a time. It's one nail at a time, one saw cut at a time. That's the same thing in recovery. It's one day at a time. A lot of times in early recovery, it's 1 hour at a time. So one nail at a time, one day at a time. After all those nails are put together in boards, look what we got. Something that's pretty sweet. Metaphor number two, this thing is progress, it's not perfection. This bookshelf, which is my first bookshelf I've ever built, is far from perfect. You can't see it now, but the nails, they're not even straight. If I go like this, it's not even standing up straight, but that's okay because I'm okay with that. And I'm actually very happy with it not being perfect because that's how your recovery is gonna be. It's not gonna be perfect. Number three that you gotta watch out for in recovery. So this is a great thing, great, healthy hobby to have your mind occupied on in early recovery or when you're trying to get sober. You gotta watch out for one thing. Is if you make 15 bookshelves, 7 coffee tables, a TV stand, and there is no more room in your house for DIY projects, you might have just replaced one addiction, alcohol, with Pete's DIY projects. So you gotta watch out for that. I'm not even joking there because I've done it myself. I've gotten myself so busy in recovery that all I'm doing is replacing activities and being busy, is replacing that, and replace the alcohol. You still gotta sit down and feel and almost meditate these feelings. But the cool thing about this, when I was sanding, that allowed me to do that. So this is one of these cool projects. You can see all of Pete's projects at DIYpete.com. He's got YouTube videos that have been seen almost over 700,000 times, totaling over 2 million views in total. And this guy, he's the real deal. I challenge you to find a nicer guy than DIY Pete. All of his projects, I'm gonna make an attempt to build. And my next one, talking accountability here, is that DIY farmhouse table. I don't know if I'm gonna go with the concrete farmhouse table, but I'm gonna go with that farmhouse table. And this is me creating accountability. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get that healthy activity to get my mind off the alcohol. I'm gonna build something tangible in my recovery. It's gonna be awesome. So Pete with DIY Projects, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with our community recovery elevator.